Full disclosure, the voice you are listening to now is artificially generated, brought to you by satisphonic.com. See the link in the description for more details. What's going on right now that most people have no idea about? The co-director of the Melanoma Institute in Australia and world-leading melanoma pathologist, Prof. Richard Scoria, is fighting a terminal brain cancer, glioblastoma. He and his co-director and best friend, Georgina Long, are using the research and knowledge that have gained through fighting melanomas to find a cure for this currently incurable cancer. He is the first human trial for a cancer vaccine alongside personalized immunotherapy. Pretty amazing that someone with so much knowledge in the area of cancer treatments can fast-track a potential cure for this brain cancer. I hope it goes well for him. I lost my dad to that. It will be 2 years in March that he passed away. This gives me hope that others will not have to suffer the way my dad did. It's a horrible way to go, and extremely hard and heartbreaking for family. I watched my father become a shell of himself. At the end, he couldn't walk, talk, didn't even know my mum, who he was with for 53 years. Bill in the US Senate to ban major corporations from buying homes. Forgive me if even I missed a detail. Hilarious how little coverage it's getting. Oh, please let this go through. They discovered a new antibiotic that kills mysi. Lake Mead water levels are 20 feet higher than last year. That's a lot. It's a lake, so is this good or bad? It's a reservoir on the Colorado River that's held back by the Hoover Dam in Nevada. It supplies water to 20 million people in Nevada, California, even parts of Mexico. Edit. Apparently to Arizona. The Ocean Cleanup Initiative has a new system to clean up an area the size of a football field every 5 seconds. The previous one extracted 282,787 kg of trash from the Pacific Ocean so far. They're also working on interceptors for rivers that have collected over 840 tons of trash and counting. There's a long way to go, but they have lots of support and they're making amazing progress. Okay, now back to the bad news. Thanks so much for sharing this. How do you find positive news? Uplifting news. I've been following the story loosely for a few years since I saw their first prototype video on Facebook. I was pessimistic, thinking it wouldn't ever come to fruition. And then one day this year I saw their real-life system actually working, and I was so thrilled. They put it all in landfills, incinerated. Just curious what we do with all of it. They made the ocean cleanup sunglasses for a while, until they sold out in 2022. Now, according to their website, ocean plastic found in international waters belongs to the project, so they recycled the majority for revenue. The river interceptors are sold and supported by the company, and the plastic retrieved belongs to the owner-operator of the device. Of course, this benefits the cities and regions using them because it's free plastic and less pollution. The greater one-horned rhino population in India and Nepal is growing, as highlighted in the State of the Rhino Report 2023 by the International Rhino Foundation. The collaboration among India, Bhutan and Nepal, along with strict government protection and management, has led to an increase in their population over the past decade. The greater one-horned rhino population, which once numbered as low as 100 in the early 1900s, has increased to more than 4,014 now. Finally, some good fucking news in this thread that isn't about someone's bowel movement. They're breeding the rhinos to use in war to eliminate the existential threat of Tibet once and for all. Tiger and rhino populations have seen a good surge thanks to restoration efforts by India and Nepal. Tiger tourism in India is booming as well. Ranthambore and Kumaon have jeep tours that take you deep into tiger territory. And in the Sundarbans, they take you on a boat deep into aquatic tiger territory. The Sundarbans tigers are the world's best man-eaters, actively hunting local human populations for centuries, so locals wear masks on the back of their heads to ward off stalking tigers. And they've been known to spring out of the water to tackle their victims off small boats. The boat you take to see them is bigger, don't worry. Did you know that Bengal tigers can jump over 20 feet? Fortunately, the boat is only 15 feet from the tiger, so he will jump right over us. There's always cool stuff happening in the science community that doesn't make it to the news but really should. Check out the Good News Network. Org to see some neat things. Here are a few highlights. A new stem cell injection that halts the progression of multiple sclerosis is in clinical trials. The California redwoods weathered the wildfires better than scientists expected and are recovering very well. The FAO approved a treatment that cures sickle cell disease. A complete Stegosaurus fossil with skin still intact has been unearthed. NASA has developed technology for sending data transmissions much further than radio frequencies, and recently sent their first transmission 10 million miles away. Scientists are going to start experimenting with lab-grown cooking oils, which could help curb a lot of the environmental damage caused by mass soy, corn, and palm oil farming. Scientists have created natural sponges that can soak up nanoplastic. Dr. Miyazaki Toru is finishing up the AIM injection that targets chronic kidney disease in cats.
Now they're predicting lifespans around 30 years.
Oh my God. I'd love to know more about this, as I've lost 2 cats, one at 18 and one at only 13, to this horrible disease. TEPS, WNXB NEM Nigov Macarticus 6,120,884. Here's their paper from 2018. The injection is now in clinical trials, expected to arrive by 2025 with the goal of a low cost. My understanding is that they're already seeing marked improvement in cats that they believed only had a week left. Dr. Miyazaki also developed a brand of cat kibble that contains the amino acid A30, a protein that cats don't produce, which aids in kidney cleanup. This year, the FDA also approved an oral medication that targets anemia resulting from feline kidney disease. The CRISPR-Cas9-based treatment for sickle cell anemia also works on beta thalassemia, since both are due to defects in hemoglobin. The treatment causes fetal hemoglobin to be expressed again, which is unaffected by the diseases, and hopefully alleviates symptoms to where patients do not need any treatments anymore. So exciting to see CRISPR-Cas9-based treatments coming to the clinic. There was a lot of talk that CRISPR would potentially cure Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, so I've been watching and waiting. Very happy to see CRISPR is going to help a lot of people. For those curious about the NASA improvement in data transmission, it was achieved by using infrared lasers instead of radio waves. More data can be transmitted, but the alignment of the sender and receiver becomes more critical. NASA Gov Technology Laser Communications, empowering more data than ever before. This stuff gives me hope. The world desperately needs hope. This is the stuff that should get the interactions, not more stuff about politics. American scientists also managed to start controlling nuclear fusion reactions. Astronomer here. We are now putting the final touches on the Rubin Observatory, which will see first light start looking at the sky in a year or so. It is an 8-meter diameter telescope mirror that will image the entire sky every night visible where it is. It's hard to emphasize what a game changer this will be for astronomy. We will literally catalog all the asteroids, see millions of supernovae a year, map the Milky Way, maybe even learn about what dark matter and dark energy are. Put it this way, if juiced is like boring a hole into one tiny spot on a shutter to let light through, this is gonna be like opening an entire window. Can't wait! American scientists also managed to start controlling nuclear fusion reactions. In Quebec, the entire public system, teachers, nurses, healthcare, etc., has been on strike since November 13th. Kids have been out of school for close to 5 weeks now, and teachers have not gotten paid since. Our government is refusing to give higher pay and better work conditions to the backbone of our province. A fox and a deer are friends in my backyard. They like to cuddle together by my shed. Alex Batty, a young boy from Manchester, who disappeared in 2017 in Spain whilst on holiday with his mother and grandfather, was found alive a few weeks ago in France after he'd been walking for 4 days to escape a religious commune and being spotted by a delivery driver in Toulouse. He was returned home just before Christmas. He's 17 years old right now, for anyone wondering, and he went missing when he was 11 hatips. Woo Daily Mail, company news article, 12,900,130 Unielex, Batty celebrates. Combe kidnapped, mother 6 years ago mladit. Here's a better article about the story, thanks to Aprinces, and others for his thanks to Aprinces Sieves, and others for pointing out some issues with the first one Hepsil. WBC Company Suk 67,718,118,158. Also, obligatory thanks for the likes, everyone. We are experiencing both child and adult literacy, crises predating but exacerbated by COVID. Edit. The people telling me in the comments that these predated COVID, as explained in my one-sentence post, are proving my point. Kids that didn't have very involved parents got destroyed during COVID and teachers were pretty much forced to push them through. Yup. I'm thankful that I live in an area that has very involved parents, so it really didn't impact the trajectory of the schools too much. The only big change that the schools made was that not turning in homework is a 50 and not a 0. Not sure what the objective for that is outside of making them look better. Teacher here. Giving a 50 instead of a 0 makes it mathematically easier for students to recover from 1 or 2 bad grades. A passing grade here is 70. I find giving 50s keeps students from getting discouraged while still teaching consequences. Edit. I love how I make the worst typos when taking about teaching. I have received some job applications that have made me really shake my head. An adult, 19-20 years old, wrote out quite a bit of info about their previous experience and work history. It was almost like gibberish to me, and the other managers, though, didn't make any sense. Until one of us realized that this person must have been unaware of the existence of the word and anywhere there should be, and they had written the word in. Once we realized that it made way more sense. That got me wondering what was going on, though. It was as if this person had never read anything and instead completely sounded out the word and as in. Honestly, none of this surprises me at all. One of the biggest gripes I had when I was a manager is that people do not know math. Now I am not some advanced math whiz either. I would have to go a lot of brushing up if I were to pass a trigonometry or statistics exam. I'm talking about things like multiplication, division, how to calculate a percentage, how to read decimals, how to calculate an average. A lot of people genuinely can't do these things. But sometimes it's even less than that. Sometimes it's about someone having the numbers and not knowing what to do with it. For example, this customer sees that his hotel stay is $4,000 and he's asking me what that comes to per night. What do I do? How many nights is he staying? 4. Did you divide $4,000 by 4? What do you mean? Another example is when we had someone in payroll who fucked up a bunch of paychecks. We were approaching slow season, and corporate told us that we couldn't have anyone having overtime. If people were even 1 minute over their 40 hours, they were going to be pissed. A bunch of people were sent home really early, so we're thinking, shit, we need to start doing a better job of monitoring that. I even remember thinking, my team doesn't have any overtime, I'm looking at their timesheet, I'm not seeing anything that shows that they're over. But it disagreed. The payroll coordinator insisted up, down, left and right. I had to send 3 people home early. Well, the next paycheck came, and a bunch of employees were really pissed off because their paychecks were shorted. After it was investigated, the person doing payroll was miscalculating people and sending people home too early. The issue? He couldn't read decimals. Because of one person who couldn't read decimals. Because of one person who couldn't read decimals, we were getting our asses lit on fire by our employees and by corporate. We had to go through an entire ordeal to ensure people were retroactively paid, and there was a whole audit to make sure that people weren't being shorted before this. Thankfully, people weren't getting shorted prior to this. It was only when the payroll coordinator started going in and making edits. I wish I was exaggerating. But I see stuff like this all the time, and it's concerning because how are you going to do your work this way? How are you going to read a report? How are you going to look at data and properly interpret what you're looking at? How are you going to solve basic problems or quote customers? Were they reading decimals like they were minutes, and 59 was almost an hour or something? I worked as a runner at a law firm that had this problem. Noticed my paycheck seemed short. My time was recorded to the nearest 10 minutes on a paper timesheet. 2:20 min would be written as 2:20 in a table format. The person doing payroll would enter that time as 2.20 and add up the hours on a calculator. The payroll person was super confused at first and then freaked out when I explained how to correctly compute the hours as decimals. They had been doing the firm's client billings for years. The payroll person was also my mother. Literally saw a post on the Raw Probation sub today where someone was asking how to fix something. They were on probation from online gaming for leaving matches early, but they had no idea what probation meant, so they went to Reddit. I wish I was making this up. See, Maybe I'm shaking my old man cane here, but asking questions like that on social media makes me feel disappointed, because it indicates that so many people's only experience with the internet is social media. That's disappointing. You have the answer to basically every ordinary question in your hand, and instead it's just for social media. Lack of inquisitiveness is a major sign of low intelligence. I am a librarian and it is bad. We are seeing the effect of not only COVID, but of a generation whose teachers focused on everything but literacy, which is now resulting in teachers not being well read. They can't spread the joy of reading, the importance of literacy. We urgently need to course correct on this. One country who is doing well on this is Ireland. They invested in literacy education, and it's paying off. It takes years though, and most politicians are not brave enough to commit to investments beyond their term. Public schools are being defunded, all while teachers get more responsibility and aggression. There's a huge amount of carbon stored in permafrost, an estimated 1,500 gigatons, or twice as much as the atmosphere contains. It's a good thing it's permanently frozen then. 2024 patch notes. All permafrost has been converted to temperfrost. The IRS is trying to figure out the best way to catch the thousands of Americans who stole billions of dollars through the employee retention credit. So many businesses claimed the credit who didn't deserve it. The credit created an entire industry of nefarious accounting companies who specialize in taking advantage of this credit. Science is kicking cancer's ass. Almost every cancer has had treatments and drug breakthroughs in the last decade, and it keeps improving with more funding and research. Man, I know, and I'm so fucking glad. The meds my baby brother is on that came out within the past year are working fucking wonders. They literally saved him from needing brain surgery. Honestly, the call on the good news of his Miri after being on those meds for only 3 months was the best fucking news of my life. And medical technology is literally only getting better. Yep, the same genetic cancer that killed my grandpa 15 years ago is now treatable with my mom. What was once a death sentence now has a fighting chance at being beaten. She'll live a lot longer now thanks to modern science and medicine. This is wonderful news. I hope one day for similar breakthroughs in drugs or type 1 diabetes. I want to live a full life. Thank you all for the incredibly kind comments. I'm doing my best. Moderna recently posted news that combining a vaccine, different monocode than what was used for COVID, similar lipid packaging, with Merck's Keytruda kept the survival rate around 50% 3 years after starting therapy and having stage 3-4 melanoma. 50% may seem low, but that is literally going to save half of all cancer patients who start early enough. Keep in mind this was for stage 3-4. If they catch the cancer early enough, it might be much higher. Despite the world going to shit, we really are on the cusp of a medical revolution not seen since antibiotics were discovered. We are likely very close to a vaccine for breast cancer. There are several versions now in the human trial phase that seem to be working. For those who use or are considering using Depo-Provera birth control, don't do it. Those of us who were on it for years have developed osteoporosis and degenerative disc disease. Supposedly, there is a black box warning, but patients only see the filled injection needle. We never saw the box, and doctors didn't tell us. So I am 46-year-old this year with the degenerative spine of a 70-year-old woman. There is no reversal. I was on it for about 10 years. 8-9 years ago, my midwife again was like, "Why on earth are you on this? It's not meant to be taken this long." I said no one told me. I seem to be okay. I'm 40 now, but I got on it at 18. I'm sure doing something for that long will have some sort of consequences. The absurd amount of insider trading that takes place every time a company is bought out. Fun fact. Unique studies done during the pandemic indicated that working from home resulted in a 5-fold decrease in incidents of financial misconduct among traders compared to working in office. Guess which industry was one of the first out of the gate pushing for a return to office? The war on water resources. It needs to be a big deal, but it ain't. I remember when some folks down in the American Sioux suggested piping water from the Great Lakes to help maintain population growth farming in the region. People up north here got really mad about even the suggestion. Seems like only a precursor. I wish people would stop moving to places where big cities are just not practical. There's no way a deal will happen to send water from the Great Lakes to the Sioux because of a deal between the US and Canadian government to protect the Great Lakes. They are a shared resource by both nations. The Great Lakes states are also pretty uninterested in sharing that water. There is a compact that all 8 states agreed to that strictly governs who the water can be shared with and how. This article from earlier this year is an interesting read. Currently listening to the book Where the Water Goes, which is about Colorado water laws. They are absolutely insane and pretty bleak, combined with the knowledge that Nestle sells bottled water under 67 names. So we don't pay attention to the fact that one company wants to privatize all the water. This is really specific. Gunnison Valley, Gunnison, Crested Butter, and Almond, Colorado, is where the Gunnison River starts. The Gunnison and the Upper Colorado River join to make the Lower Colorado River, which is an extremely important source of water and power for the western state. The Gunnison provides most of the water to the Lower Colorado. So, if we don't get snow in the valley, then Las Vegas and the farmers out west are fucked. We've barely gotten any snow and there is 0 in the forecast. If something doesn't change, all are going to have a rough summer down there. There's a guy browsing the tax office record of deeds to find business owners who haven't paid their taxes in order to pay off the taxes himself and then get the deed, then extorting the owner or evicting them and selling their property, all under the protection of the law. Your child's classroom is being completely overrun by 1 or 2 problem children, and your child is hurting because of it. 100% can verify this, and will add that there are several factors at play: COVID-related behaviors, parents used unlimited screens to babysit their kids, and the resulting social development stunting added to 2 years of no school routine. School districts, fearful of lawsuits, afraid to stand up to sue happy, high-income helicopter parents, and/or afraid to be the latest news story in disproportionately suspend and expel poor kids or kids of color. The biggest one, and one you can help with, class sizes have increased at least 30% over the last 20 years. So all the normal interventions you could use with problem children are ineffective because there's too many kids in the room, not enough time to spend with each individual kid. You can help this by supporting your local teachers when they bargain strike, because class size is a contract negotiated issue. B. Call your school board and ask what they are doing about using funds to reduce class sizes. Key. Support and vote for local legislators who actually know something about education and not the business people who run for school boards and think they know more than teachers because they make more money. Edit. Holy shit, this blew up. So I want to add that this isn't a hopeless situation, but if you are a parent, you need to talk to your kids about the disruptions, and you have the power to pressure admin to do something about the disruptors. They won't listen to the teachers. For those of you without kids, you can be a volunteer and help out. Even if you only go once or twice a month and tutor or read to kids, that's attention they wouldn't get, or a break for the teacher, helping take load off by making copies prepping project sets otherwise. From the replies I've got to this comment, a lot of you seem to understand that kids not being educated well affects all of us, so it's going to take all of us to make it work. I'm astounded that this is so low. The everyone passes and everyone has a right to be here mentality is a serious problem in public schools. It takes school resources, puts kids in physical danger, and slows down the entire class to the speed of the slowest. This is how you turn schools into glorified daycares. It's terrible, and teachers' hands are tied. The US healthcare system is actively collapsing. Roughly 15% of us patients simply cannot receive care, and that number is increasing. COVID accelerated it, but it's been coming for a while. There are tons of causes: coast, patient location, or because of the system being overburdened. Hospital systems are closing entire hospitals because they aren't profitable enough. This creates care deserts where patients don't have access to medical care. Certain specialties are being targeted by politics, which can make it worse. Hospitals, especially bad ones, are having huge staffing issues. Nurses are leaving bedside nursing at a high rate because patient care sucks. That creates a viscous cycle, because then conditions get worse, and so even more nurses leave. 45% of nurses quit nursing entirely within 5 years. But also MEs, CNAS, and support staff like techs, phlebotomists, therapists, etc. leave for the same reason. Hospitals just aren't paying appropriately to be assaulted and shit on, and get certifications and have your license be on the line when Target will pay you $2 more an hour. Our insurance system has raised the price of care so high that many patients choose not to seek care or can't pursue treatment when they need it. That's a combo of for-profit insurance, providers being able to opt out of Medicare and Medicaid because they need to be profitable to keep their doors open, and the ever-rising cost of treatment itself, medicine, procedures and facilities. States who opt out of extended Medicaid are the ones who need it most, so tons more low-income patients can't afford care. The resources we do have are being stretched to the breaking point because of better-known issues like people treating us as primary care. That's getting worse for the same reasons: fewer and busier providers, higher costs, worse insurance, fewer facilities. Healthcare should never have been allowed to be a for-profit industry. Profit motive does not belong anywhere near healthcare, or it causes collapse, like we are seeing. My mom has been cancer-free for a year. How about the total commercialization of the internet? It started as a wild west of entertainment, news, information. Now there are daily propaganda and agendas that get consumed en masse. There are entire swathes of commercialized psychologists finding how to squeeze profit from you on almost every single app, game, streaming service, you name it. There are advanced AI being used by corps to lock you in cages of your own design, so comfortable and cozy that you'd be crazy to disconnect or complain. But why would you want to know that you are just a slave to forces beyond comprehension as long as you are here and a slave your own compulsion? That morality has long fallen by the wayside. We don't even see things like gore, porn, racism as particularly degenerative anymore. We just consume. There are a significant number of lunar landings by robotic vehicles scheduled for 2024. There's a third regional war being threatened, aside from Ukraine and Israel. It's between Venezuela and Guyana, with Venezuela threatening to invade what is essentially the western half of Guyana. This is an old dispute, one Venezuela originally gave up pushing on decades ago, but a few years ago, a shitload of oil was discovered off the coast of western Guyana, and lo and behold, Venezuela is suddenly fleeing Moscow. The US has already sent a carrier over, sending a not-so-subtle message to Venezuela. You don't have nukes. We don't have to suffer you gladly. That'll probably be the end of it. Probably. Can't believe I'm seeing nothing in the top 200 comments about insects disappearing. The fact that you can go on a 45-minute drive across the town and arrive with a clean grill should be insanely alarming to EVRIOARONE. They are the bottom of the food chain. Everyone relies on them. Over the past decade and a half, pretty much every person on Earth has been eating about 1-2 credit cards worth of plastic a year from microplastics. It's getting worse and isn't slowing down anytime soon, it would seem. What percentage of that actually stays in your body? To my understanding, it's all pretty much gone within a week. The danger is more it keeps happening at such a rate that the amount inside of you will build up over time. Of course, we have no evidence that having these microplastics in us has any negative health side effects, but that is partially because it's impossible to find a control group at this point who don't. Why the fuck are celebrities building shelters? I think they're trying to raise up the shelter prices. This one is honestly hilarious to me. It really hammers in just how completely short-sighted and dumb these extremely powerful people are. They'd rather just commit suicide in a bunker after a few years Hitler style rather than make the world a better place or worse, part with a single gold piece of their dragon hole. We're in the middle of a great extinction event, meaning species are going extinct at a rate of up to 10,000 times the normal rate. We're actually making the Earth into a monoculture, which means across the Earth we're planting many of the same crops across vast areas such as the US Midwest and transforming the ecosystem into a place where generalists such as coyotes and deer thrive and specialists at certain ecosystems die off. We've currently transformed 40% of the Earth's landmass into crops and farms. Edit. About 23 of the farmland I had stated was farmland was actually pastureland, but I wasn't trying to be misleading. It's still part of the monoculture. The US prairie is virtually non-existent, and it was the home of, I think, like 500 grass species. It's oftentimes the species you don't think about or didn't know existed that go extinct. Nurse practitioners are being granted independence to practice with online degrees and only 500 hours of clinical training, with no on-bedside experience. Independently, maternal death rates in the United States are rising. The highest rates are among black women. The rates have essentially doubled over the last 20 years. Edited to share that there's a lot of moving factors here. The rates are calculated from before birth to a year after birth. People are having babies later in life now, which is one factor. The immediate factors at play are things like hemorrhage, infection, hypertension, preeclampsia, stroke, and cardiomyopathy. But if we consider the factors that are happening up to a year after birth, we look mostly at mental health. The contributing factors to this mental health crisis, like lack of support, shit maternity-paternity leave, living far away from family, increased societal pressures, social media, etc. These mental health factors alone can be why America's rates are higher vis other countries. We aren't supporting our moms. Then there's the contributing political factors surrounding abortion. The largest dam removals in history are happening right now, restoring access that salmon haven't had to their spawning grounds in over a century. The Yurok and other northwestern tribes have put in the work for decades advocating for waterways. And though some utility companies are real pissed about it, Biden admin approved millions of dollars to fund the continued efforts. Salmon are a keystone species. So many parts of the ecosystem rely on them. So this is amazing news. Tips, upnews, comatical salmon, tribes, snake, river, dam, energy, 336 at 20, 93 step, 725s, faced 125, 53,047 of 8 of 29.